Hi guys, welcome to Big Loz Official. Today I'm very, very excited. I have one of the British legends of strength, the incredible 1993 World's Strongest Man, Mr. Gary Taylor. Gary, how are you, my friend?
Good evening, Laurence. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, you brought back a lot of memories then. 1993 is a long time ago now.
Well, for me, it's weird because I'm doing a lot of these interviews with modern athletes as well as guys from the past, and the modern guys they're just my competitors, really. A lot of them, they're mates. But guys like yourself, I interviewed Magnus Samuelsson the other day, and guys like yourself are people that I grew up watching. So it's actually more exciting for me these interviews. So I'm like an excited little boy.
Yeah, it made me feel really old now.
No. You're still doing well. You're looking great, actually. You're doing really well. You've had an incredible career in strength, not just strongman. I mean, you were a weightlifter, you're a powerlifter, bodybuilder, strongman. So I want you to take me back to the start and explain to people kind of, I guess, your story in the lifting game in general.
Okay. It all started way back around about 1970, just after I left school, really. I picked up a bodybuilding magazine in a shop. And I couldn't believe the size of those guys I was kind of looking at, you know what I mean? Never kind of even thought of it before, because I was always playing rugby and football, like you did in kind of Welsh schools, you know what I mean? And then I just started doing a bit of training, and I got invited to a small club in St. Thomas, which is just in Swansea. And after a couple of weeks, the coach had a guy called Alan House. He said, have you ever thought of having a go at Olympic lifting? And if you remember at the time, the big guy at the time was Alexeyev, the Russian Alexeyev, who wasn't the kind of most glamorous looking person in the world. And I thought, well, do I really want to become like that? Because that was my impression of Olympic lifting. Anyway, I gave it a go, and after 3 months, won the Welsh Junior Championships.
After 3 months?
I'll give it a kind of a real good go. Then in 1982, I went to Brisbane for the Commonwealth Games. And then in 1984, qualified for the Olympic Games in Los Angeles, where I got second in the snatch. I didn't do very well in the clean and jerk. So that was my kind of Olympic lifting days. And then when I came back from Los Angeles, I moved on with my kind of career. I was still working at the time there with the prison service, and started doing a little bit of bodybuilding then, and messing with a bit of powerlifting. And then in kind of bodybuilding terms, I got second to Dorian Yates in 1988 at the British Bodybuilding. And the following year then I thought it was my title, but Ian Harrison came along and beat me to the second place again in 1989. Along the way I'd done a bit of powerlifting, as I said, and attended the British squat record at the time in the 110 kilogram class and that sort of stuff. And then a friend of mine said, have you ever thought about strongman? I said, no, not really, but I'd watched it at Christmas with John Paul and Jeff and Kaz, knew the kind of guys. And I said to him, if you get me a competition, I'll give it a crack. So a few weeks later, he came along and said, I've been in touch with a guy called Dougie Edmonds in Scotland. He's invited up to do a strongman competition. And that's where it started. My first competition was in Scotland, and I got second in Britain's Strongest Man of the first crack. Paul Lupton was the winner that year.
Was that your first strongman contest?
Yeah, that was the first one.
So your first contest was Britain's Strongest Man, and you got second. That's pretty good going.
So I did that, and then the rest is history, really. Yeah. And I did kind of Britain's and European and Worlds then up till 97, where I had a big accident in Holland, which finished me off good and proper.
But you had a successful career nonetheless. I mean, injuries are terrible, and we'll maybe kind of address some of those later. What was it like competing against Dorian Yates firstly in bodybuilding? Because at the time, I guess he wasn't Mr. Olympia at the time, was he? Or?
No. It was funny. I mean, I've been bodybuilding since came back from Los Angeles in 84. So 85 was my first kind of competitive bodybuilding, and people were saying, "Oh, you're going to do really well." And at the same time, there's another guy in Birmingham, Dorian Yates, who was coming through the kind of ranks at the same time as me. And so I think we knew a little bit about each other. And then we met then in the 1988 British Bodybuilding Championships. And And in fairness, looking back at the old photographs, and a lot of people said it was touch and go. He had some better features than me, and vice versa. But that's bodybuilding. It's down to how you kind of interpret it, what the judges like. You know what I mean? And as we all know, Dorian went on to do wonderful things, and became a kind of superstar in that sport. So in the following year, then I'd been to Czechoslovakia. I'd won the kind of the Sandow Classic up there. Got the overall championship. And that was about 3 weeks before the British. So coming back thinking, I'll get my pro card now. But unfortunately, Ian Harrison came in that show and once again kind of took the championship and left me standing. It's always close call in bodybuilding. And I think coming back into kind of strongman was really nice for me, because if you didn't lift it or pull it or kind of do whatever, you didn't win. And that was kind of my old Olympic lifting kind of thing back now. You know, if you didn't lift the heaviest, you didn't win or you didn't get anything. And strongman then was really good for that. I got back into that thing where, with my own destiny, nobody looking at me going, oh, I don't like his chest, I don't like his legs, you know. And I think that was kind of what I really wanted, and it went from there, I think, Laurence, yeah.
Yeah. Did you prefer the strength sports then over the bodybuilding because of that? I guess, I mean, you know, this isn't being disrespectful to bodybuilders, but there's that, it's a personal opinion at the end of the day with the judges. Whereas in the weightlifting and the powerlifting and the strongman, you have to lift it. If you don't, if someone lifts more than you, then you lose.
Yeah, I mean, did I enjoy it more or not? I think is a difficult one to answer, because bodybuilding, what it teaches you is incredible discipline. Because the diet in for the last 6 weeks, you know, you wake up dreaming about food. You know, I had to empty my fridge before competitions, because otherwise you could tempt yourself. I can remember going into the fridge, looking at it, seeing nothing in there, walk away and think, I didn't look in the bottom, go back and have another look. But that discipline teaches you something else.
Yeah.
And whatever you kind of think of bodybuilding, that discipline to get into that kind of condition is absolutely incredible. You know what I mean? And once you start getting into that kind of condition, you become almost kind of, you don't want to let it stop. You can see you get better and better. Where strongman, you haven't got to worry about the food. The discipline is slightly different, because now you're kind of testing your body with maximum lifts and that sort of stuff and trying to get stronger. So I think in both of them, they got their benefits, and I think I've learned a lot from all of them. But if I had to say, did I really enjoy one more than the other, I would think it'd have to be the strength, because of my Olympic lifting background, coming back into strength. I think that's where my kind of heart really lied, in that kind of environment. That's what I was good at, very good.
How long did you do the Olympic weightlifting for?
Only for 4 years, which was quite crazy. I started lifting in 1980, and within 2 years I qualified for the Commonwealth Games. And then within 4 years I got to the Olympic Games. At the time I held Commonwealth records and all that kind of stuff. So I was doing really well. My best lifts were 187 kilo in the snatch and 270 kilo clean and jerk at only 110 kilo body weight.
How much clean and jerk?
217.5 kilo.
Yeah, that's
you know, I was a far better snatcher than I was a clean and jerker. But I was only within 4 years. So I had a kind of a real strong base, you know what I mean? So I think it was in the blood a little bit.
And I mean, in the UK, we're not a big weightlifting country. There's not like the facilities, I guess, that they have in the States or in Russia and China. So I think to excel in a sport like that from over here is even more impressive.
If you go back, you know, if you look at the kind of the 70s and 80s and some into the 90s, Olympic lifting was a very big sport in this country. Okay. We used to send teams of 10 to the Olympic Games, you know. But Olympic lifting has had to develop over the years, you know, and you got the female class as well now, or the women's classes. So they kind of split it down now. So there's more people doing it, but less people get the chance to kind of get into the world or the Olympic Games. And Olympic places are dependent on your previous world championship places. So we're not getting the world champions, we're not getting the Olympic places. So very few people actually go there now. And it's very sad, because Olympic lifting is an incredible sport for kids and teenagers because of the discipline it teaches you. You know, it's not an easy sport to learn. It's very technical.
Yeah.
But the rewards are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. You know, and I still love to watch it. And If anybody gets a chance to watch the Chinese lifters in the training camps, it's inspiring and it's just awesome. Yeah, so it's a wonderful sport.
I think Olympic weightlifters tend to cross over better to strongman than, say, powerlifters a lot of the time, because they have that. They're really incredible athletes, like you say, and their discipline when it comes to form and technique is tremendous. There's such little intricacies with weightlifting. If it's just slightly wrong, you won't get that weight up. Whereas the powerlifting movement, strongman movements, you can use brute strength. I mean, the best athletes try and be very technical as well, but you do see certain athletes that just rely on sheer brute force. Whereas in weightlifting, you can't do that.
Oh no, I mean, I think if you look at the two-hand snatch, it must be one of the most technical lifts in all sport. Yeah. It's speed, agility, gymnastic ability, guts and determination, pure strength, flexibility. It's got a huge amount of kind of all-round athletic ability. So you've got to have that kind of attributes to even do well in it. And that's why it's very difficult to learn and to get kids into it, because if you see some kids these days now, they'll see powerlifting, they'll see strongman, they'll see bodybuilding. If they try Olympic lifting, it takes months and months to even get the basics in. Yeah. So where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? And if you go into bookshops as well, you'll only see bodybuilding magazines. You don't see some strongman on the TV and on the social media. You see very little Olympic lifting. So there's no kind of social media appeal into that sport, which is a shame. And these days you have to have that coverage to get people to come into it. Yeah. But it is a good sport. It did certainly help me come into strongman. But I think there's a balance between that sheer brute kind of strength from powerlifting, and if you can mix it with the Olympics, I think you get the best of both worlds. You know what I mean? And I must admit that my flexibility certainly helped me at times with the strongman, and vice versa. I think it works both ways.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, obviously you said you came second in your first strongman contest, but you weren't a newbie to lifting, obviously, with such a pedigree in powerlifting, bodybuilding, and obviously the weightlifting. I have noticed a lot of good weightlifters cross over to strongman. You know, you got Kuklayev, the Russian, Bergmanis, he was a great weightlifter, and there's been others over the years. And it is, like you say, I think it's that. I mean, you look at the Chinese, they all start from such a young age, don't they? Just to master the movement. They don't even let them use much weight. It's just mastering the movement patterns, and then the big weights come. And I mean, I just mentioned it, but it's probably that when I watch a lot of strongman contests and I referee, and you've done some refereeing as well, you'll see people lift and they'll miss their first attempt and they'll try again, and you know they're not going to get it because they've expended too much energy. But weightlifting is the one sport when they miss it, they can come back and correct it, because you know it's quite interesting when you watch. Because I mean, if I see someone fail a log lift, for instance, and they put it down, I know they're not going to get it that second attempt. But weightlifting is that one thing where they're just trying to make it so spot on that suddenly it either looks easy or it doesn't happen at all.
If you can get it in the groove, as they say, it makes it very easy. You know, and if you could get in the groove every day and every day, fantastic. But it's the same with strongman, the same with power. You know, you've only got to be a couple of, like log lift, a couple of meters. If it's in the front, it's going to come down. If it's in the back, it's going to go backwards. So everything has got that finite little bit, you know what I mean? And if you've got a bit of flexibility about you, you can move in and get a little bit more out of it. But I suppose it's those kind of attributes that kind of build up the whole
I'll tell you what, we've had a lot of questions recently about the log lift, and you're the best person to ask for this, really, because a lot of people have been saying the way that Rob Kearney lifts a log, he jerks the log. Yeah. And it's very impressive, because I know a lot of weightlifters that come to strongman and can't jerk a log, and people are saying it's like cheating, and you know. But you're a weightlifter. What was your best lift on the log?
I did a 190 log in Australia. That was back in 92, 93, somewhere around there.
Which is
but there was nothing. I mean, I never had one to practice with, so I would just turn up an event and there'd be a log. So I'd never practiced them. And I remember the first time I actually tried a log lift was up in Scotland, and using my kind of Olympic thing, trying to kind of lift it up quickly, and both hamstrings went flying across the field somewhere. You know what I mean? So it was a different, where I was trying to use speed, you couldn't, because they're in front of you. And some of your listeners are quite correct, you know what I mean? There's a massive difference between a log lift and an Olympic lift, a jerk. Because in a jerk, the bar lifts right across your body. It's right in your kind of center of gravity.
Yeah.
But with a log, you're hanging it out here somewhere. It's pulling you forward all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you can get a jerk from there, brilliant. But it's very difficult because the bar wants to go in front of you all the time. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So, some people get away. I could do it a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, I think the heavier it gets as well on the log, it gets harder and harder to jerk.
Well, because of that center of gravity and it being on you, it's pulling you forward all the time. So if you can lean back more, then you can't jerk it because the bar will go back anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then you have to rely on your kind of...
It compromises your back position, doesn't it?
It becomes more of a big bench press then, and that's where the powerlifters kind of dominate that kind of thing there.
But I mean, one of my kind of fondest memories of you was competing. I can't remember which year it was. One of the 90s World's Strongest Man contests. They did the behind the neck press with the kind of Flintstone lifts. Now that was a lift you were exceptional at. I mean, I've heard stories that you put 270 kilos overhead. Is that true?
267 kilos.
267 kilos. So
I did that at the London Bodybuilding Championships in 94. Yeah, in front of about 1,000 odd people. But it was one of those kind of lifts that I was good at, and it just kind of grew, you know. I think if I'd kind of carried on, I would have gone over the 600 pound. I would have done a 272, I think, at some stage. You know what I mean? I don't have to hold that kind of weight overhead. You know, you've got to be strong in the core and everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just one of those kind of, any overhead I was quite good at. Big, strong shoulders, you know, and yeah, the Flintstone lift was one of the ones that was given to me.
I used to think that was a cool looking event. Just as a kid watching it, I've mentioned to people that they should bring an event like that back, because it's all very well having the calibrated plates and the huge. I mean, I'm sure you've heard and seen the 500 kilo deadlifts that have been going on.
Yeah.
You know, ridiculous weights. But when they're on powerlifting bars, it doesn't look as impressive. Whereas those big kind of like rocks, almost like Fred Flintstone type of, that's what I think attracted people to Strongman back in those days anyway. And
yeah, but there's also, I mean, it is, you know, I mean, kind of huge tires or big rocks or carrying a car, it looks fantastic. But the problem with that as well is how can you tell people, the average person, anyway, what that rock is?
Yeah.
How heavy is that car? You know what I mean? And it's something that is a bit of a circusy kind of thing as well, where those kind of big rocks could be polystyrene, for everybody knows. You know what I mean? So that's the balance you've got to get with kind of doing the kind of discs at 25 kilo or whatever, or this kind of image that looks fantastic. You know what I mean? We did power presses in Scotland with these huge tractor tires on the bar. You know what I mean? And it was just an incredible thing. All you could see was a little man between two huge tires kind of doing his pressing. But in some ways it looks ridiculously heavy, but it's still kind of getting that away from that circus act to make it really spectacular. And I think that's where you lot now, or the kind of attitude you've been competing against, bringing it indoors, doing those kind of stadium events, has taken it up another level now.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? Where more and more people who understand what 100 kilo is can really appreciate what 500 kilo is.
Yeah.
You know, and that sort of stuff.
I think in like the modern era, you've got so many more people that actually train now with the birth of social media, I guess, and then things like, you know, CrossFit became popular. You know, Strongman on TV, raw powerlifting's really taken off. There's a lot more females involved in lifting now, and it's the fitness industry as a whole is huge. And then people obviously find their niche and they find their things that they like, and it's brought a lot more people to the Strongman world, and now it's becoming a lot more professional. And like you say, you know, these events in the stadiums are fantastic, and I've been privileged enough to compete in a number of them, and you know, I've won a couple of them, and but without guys like yourself that kind of laid the foundation of the sport, we wouldn't have got there. So I think I'm just a fan of Strongman. I like to look back, and I like to look forward as well. I still want to see the sport grow to new heights, even. You know, but it's nice to look back and see what actually. I mean, like I said, with the guys now, they're my competition, or they were. Whereas yourself, you were someone I looked up to as a kid. And I'm sorry if I'm making you feel old.
Rub that into me,
yeah, my grey beard and. But it was, you know, they're the memories that stick into you. And I think you know, and I've got guys that I think are too old to have watched me as a kid now coming up to me saying that, you know, I inspired them, and it's lovely. But having those role models, I guess, that kind of get you into the sport, and that you can remember certain. I mean, I vividly remember seeing you on the beach pressing that Flintstone lift. That's a, you know, a memory, and I used to love watching The World's Strongest Man in the 90s, and then, you know, as I got into it in the you know, noughties and stuff, it was always a big part of my life at Christmas. Like, I mean, now I try and advocate for Strongman to be on TV a lot more, because the way TV has changed, it's not about watching 3 or 4 channels. You know, everyone watches things differently, and I'd love to see Strongman on TV weekly. You know, as a, you know, like a big, you know, football or darts or tennis or whatever it might be. The sport's growing, and I think we've got to get away from that tradition of Strongman being just at Christmas. I don't know how you. I mean, do you watch much?
I mean, it's going to grow. There's no question about that, because, you know, the one thing that's kind of really kind of noticeable now is the guys. It's Giants Live, isn't it? And all the guys are big guys. And at the end of the day, people like to watch big guys lifting big heavy things. I mean, I've said this before. If you look at Olympic lifting, the super heavyweights aren't necessarily the strongest guys. Some of the lighter ones are better lifters, are stronger pound for pound. But the super heavies will sell out the stadium because they look like the strongest guys and lifting some big weights. You know what I mean? And I think that's the appeal of Giants Live and the World's Strongest Man now. Is, you know, there's yourself, there's Thor, there's kind of Eddie, all bigger than life guys lifting big weights. And kids can look up to that and think, oh my God, they're huge. They've got to be strong and that sort of stuff. And they are strong these days now, you know what I mean? But it's got that appeal. And I think by bringing it inside has given it even more appeal, because in my day, we did it in fields in Scotland. You know, I mean, you were dodging the cow pat as you pulled the truck. So things have kind of improved no end. And that's going to have an appeal to take it forward as well. And as Colin's taking forward now and filling up these stadiums, what with social media now, you can watch Strongman all day on social media. Yeah. Excuse me. So I think it's going to grow and grow. And yes, of course, I want to see it grow. I'd like to see Olympic lifting more, you know, bodybuilding and stuff like that. All that kind of sport, because it's sport. Because some of the shit, if I dare say it, on television now has no appeal like what Strongman can do. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're right. More people doing it in gyms and that sort of stuff. They're all trying that. You can buy all the equipment now. You can buy all. You can buy the stones.
Even when I started,
you know what I mean?
When I started, I couldn't have kit to train on. Whereas now everything is loadable. You can strip it right down so people can, you know, from complete beginners, they can lift this stuff. Whereas when you were lifting and when I started, it was literally set at a certain weight, and if you weren't strong enough to lift it, you couldn't train on it. So, but now everything, you know, you can get farmers walks that weigh 10 kilos. You can get logs that weigh 15 kilos. It's you know, you just didn't have that luxury back then. And it's now, I mean, now you've got the under 105 classes, the under 90 kilos. There's so many women involved in the sport. I can't imagine there was any females competing when you were, you know, at World's Strongest Man. Very few.
I mean, it was like anything else. I mean, in my kind of era, you would never heard of women rugby players. You would never have heard of women football players. You know what I mean? But now, sport has opened up to a huge run. And I think women are strong. Yeah. You know what I mean? And why can't they get involved in that?
I'll tell you, the girls are getting stronger and stronger. It's quite scary the progress that the female side is making. You know, I've seen 60-kilo girls deadlifting 260, 270 kilos. It's frightening. I'm retiring before one of these girls beats me.
Well, no, you know, I mean, you look at some of the Chinese female Olympic lifters. Oh, you know, teenagers like 180, 190 kilo. You know,
ridiculous.
God, come on, that is just phenomenal. You know, so there's a place for everybody, and I think that's going to be double the appeal, because women will enjoy going, the crowds will get better because they enjoy it. And even so, where it used to be just the men taking their girlfriend along to watch a competition, more like, you know, the girls know exactly what they're lifting, and so you go in as a couple to watch a competition rather than being just a partner behind the person. I think it's definitely going to grow, you know, and great, why not? It needs to.
Yeah, you know? Definitely. Do you still watch much Strongman yourself these days?
I watch a bit. Yeah. You know, obviously I've watched the last bit, the 501. I watched that live, the deadlift. because those kind of things kind of hammer home, I mean, I know what 400 kilo deadlift feels like. You can imagine what a 500 kilo deadlift. So there's always going to be that appreciation of what guys are lifting, you know what I mean? And, deep down I'm still going, if I've been around now, I might have had a go at that. That's a stupid idea, that kind of thing. But of course I still watch it. I did a lot of refereeing for Glenn Ross and Manfred earlier on and that sort of stuff. I try to keep involved there. But then life just took over me, working and that sort of stuff. I've had some health problems along the way. But now I still train 10 times a week.
10 times a week. I mean, I'm sitting here. You look in great shape.
I'm deeply into CrossFit.
Yeah,
I love the challenge of CrossFit, and I wish I'd found that years ago. So I'm hoping I was going to compete in April, but obviously with the coronavirus, so that'll hopefully be next year and that sort of stuff. And I think that's the kind of mentality you build up with sport over the years. Is you just got to keep going.
You're clearly a very competitive person. You like the challenge. Like you obviously like a lot of different types of challenges. So I should imagine you're never going to stop training. And I feel the same. People say, "Oh, you're going to stop training now that you're." Like, no way. I mean, I love CrossFit. I love watching the CrossFit games. I really do. Those athletes are on another level as well. Their diversity of the things that they can do.
I know, but it's not just. It's just the variety of exercises they have to be competent in is incredible. You know what I mean? And okay, I'm hitting on the 60s now soon. Trying to do some of the exercises is challenging, but it's a challenge, and that's what I love. You know what I mean? My wife is heavily involved in CrossFit with me. My son is he's 21. He's into powerlifting and doing really well at that. So I think you live that kind of lifestyle, and I think without it, if I don't train for 3 days, I'm the most grouchy person you'll ever meet in your life. But I think it becomes inbuilt in you, an expectation. It's a challenge, and that's my drug. That's my drug. I love it. I want to go and beat myself in the gym every day and that sort of stuff.
You do get that feeling after a hard training session. Nothing beats that.
Nothing beats it. Nothing beats it in the world. You know what I mean? We do these kind of CrossFit circuits now, and they're so challenging. They're enjoyable. Yeah. But after, you feel like $1 million. And the same when I competed in Strongman. After you finished, your body was aching, but you loved it. And same with everything else, bodybuilding and Strongman. It's just that feeling after those kind of training sessions when you pushed yourself, you've done a personal best. There's nothing better, And I think if you get more people to get that feeling, and I think more people are now, definitely. As I say, social media has opened that up so you can challenge yourself against other people. In Strongman now, 105, 90. So that's bringing it down to the average person. Yeah. So they can think, oh, I can bench press 200 just like that guy can. I think it's just phenomenal. It's a brilliant time now. I was just born 30 years too early.
Well, it's really great to hear you still lifting and still competing in sports. That's fantastic to hear. But anyway, I want to talk. I've got you, the 93 World's Strongest Man on here. I need to talk about World's Strongest Man. And when was your first World's Strongest Man contest?
I actually did my. I competed. My first strongman contest was 1990. And then I did the 1991 World's Strongest Man Tenerife.
Okay.
So that was my first kind of exposure to that kind of level. I ended up third. Should have done a lot better, but pure inexperience. But that was what it was.
Was that the year you had to load onto that really high platform?
No, that was. We did a loading race to start off with, but it wasn't very high. But it was just a kind of really awkward objects. No, Bahamas was the 95 was the real high one.
Yeah.
And I was about 3 or 4 inches too short.
Yeah, you flew through the loading, and then was it like a sack or something that you had to load onto a ridiculously high platform?
The stand was wearing away at the bottom, and I was trying to throw it, whatever. Hey, I mean, it was a shame, but that's the way it kind of pans out.
But in France, 93, that was the one for you.
Well, it just clicked, I mean, it was just a great venue, fantastic, the old Roman kind of amphitheatre. The event suited me, and there were some good guys there that year as well. Bardos, Rico, Magnus, Manfred.
Yeah.
So it could have gone either way, but it was my night, and look back and I think I have good pride with that,
Yeah, you should do.
But then the mistake I made then, Laurence, and I'll be honest with you, I came back from Orange, winning the World Strongman, and you kind of put yourself on a pedal and think, I'm invincible, I'm the world's strongest man. And rather than just take stock and learn, I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. I was doing seminars week in, week out. I was doing kind of overhead presses in exhibitions. And I just overdid it. And then 94, I tore the bicep. And then it just kind of just escalated from there. I came back from that, and then you got the next thing. And
do you find you try to come back too quickly often?
Yeah, and I think I sort of pushed too much.
Yeah.
Because there was so little known about strongman and developing kind of strength in that respect. Because it was such an all-round thing, I tried to do too much because I was still working full-time. Weekend, then fly to Finland, do a competition, come back. Probably be doing a seminar, or an exhibition, and you're always trying to impress people by doing that, rather than taking a step back, working again.
I think
hindsight is a wonderful thing, but you never know.
You do notice now the guys are a lot more selective about what they do. They've got sponsors. They're professional athletes now. Whereas you were a prison warden, is that right?
Well, prison service, yeah. And I was a PI in those days when I was there.
You're working long hours, and then training as well on top of it. Then traveling on the weekend. It must have been absolutely non-stop.
But exciting, I loved it. We fly to Finland and the stadium was full. Come home, we'd work a week, then fly off to somewhere else, to South Africa for a competition and so and so. It was just never ending. And I think it took its toll too much. You try to do too much, because in those days, it was a semi-professional, but there was not really any money in it then. So you wanted to do as much as you could to make some money, sort of stuff. And I think that was the wrong kind of attitude. I should have taken a step back and changed my ways. But I got no regrets whatsoever, Laurence. I had a wonderful time. I loved it, and I would do it all over again if I had.
Just talking to you now. The success you've had, not just in strongman, but many strength sports. There can't be many people that can compete on that level. You say you got a silver in the snatch at the Olympics.
Yeah. Silver in the snatch Olympics. World's strongest man. I won the London Powerlifting Championship. Qualified for the British, but didn't go. And I won various bodybuilding competitions, second in the British bodybuilding twice. So
I think you can look back and be very, very proud of what you've achieved.
I am. You know what I mean?
I know it's a strange thing as an athlete. You're never satisfied, are you? You're always looking forward. And I've had this recently. I was umming and ahhing about whether I want to keep competing or hang it up, because I've never ever thought I've done enough. I never thought I was good enough. I always wanted to be better. But sometimes you just got to sit down and look back and think, actually, I've done pretty well. And you really, you were the world's strongest man. No one can take that away from you. That's a hell of an achievement. There's only about 20 odd guys ever that have won that title. It's a big achievement. So, hats off to you, my friend. It's something I couldn't achieve. I wanted to try and get on the podium. That was the one thing I couldn't do in strongman was get onto the podium at Worlds.
But you've won competition, you've won European strongman.
I've won plenty of internationals.
I think there's a level where we all kind of reach, and you should never say, whatever, it wasn't good enough. Of course, it's good enough. Whatever. But anybody can achieve anything in any sport is good because it's at that ability and that at a level as well for everybody. You know what I mean? And I think that's the best thing about sport is it's for everybody. Anybody can do it. You know what I mean? And that's the best thing about it.
No, it really is. I like yourself. I just want to continue to train, continue to find new challenges, and just keep enjoying it because I've really enjoyed my strongman time. There's been some devastating times, and let's talk quickly about the injury that finished you off from strongman. That was quite a nasty one, was it?
Yeah. I'd had some bad injuries prior to that. I tore the bicep off in 94. I decided not to have it put back on. I continued without it. But you tend to be as strong as your weakest link. In 95 then, I think it was the European team champion, me and Jamie Reeves competing. We were tire loading, big tires on the back of a truck, tore the tricep off, and that put back on. I've torn my abdomen off my pelvis, that's come off.
That's horrible.
Then obviously in '97, doing the tyre flip in Holland. It was on a concrete surface. There was a little bit of water in the tyres. That came out. I slipped. The tyre came down on me, and my foot ended up beside my hip. So I lost every ligament in the knee, and that ultimately was the end of it. I did try to come back. The doctors did an amazing job, which is credit. I'm still CrossFitting now, 20 odd years later. Yeah. So they've done a fantastic job. But there's just there was a little bit too much movement in the knee to make any kind of reasonable ground back into strongman or anything like that, because a little bit of movement in the knee, you're doing, car walk or whatever, yoke walk, your knee's going to be shattered straight away.
I think
as hard as it was to pack up, and it's going to be hard for you too, okay? I still miss that competing bit. I miss playing to the crowds and all that kind of stuff, because that was the fun of it as well for me.
You played to the crowd as well. You were a real entertainer when you were competing.
Magnus, myself, Wayne Price, we were all just clowns having a bit of fun, you know what I mean? I can remember one day we were doing the weight hike in Scotland, and John Paul said, "Let's do it in our underpants." Just crazy things like that. So there we were in our underpants, and I'd do these kind of, weight for height and all that sort of stuff. The crowd loved that sort of stuff, you know what I mean? But that's what it was. And I still miss competing. I miss competing, and I think hopefully now, moving into CrossFit, I can do something in the age categories there. Because competing as well, you get that adrenaline buzz is something you crave, you know what I mean? Yeah. I miss that all the time. Competing, that adrenaline buzz becomes part of your life, and you're going to be the same. You'll miss that. Because
I'm guessing, even from like a young kid, you were competing in sport.
Yes. I mean, I was in rugby and football, athletics, I did everything, cricket, all round us, like any kind of kids in those days, you know what I mean? So I've grown up through it, and I'll die doing it as well. So, nobody can say I didn't try doing it.
You had a great era of athletes around you. I mean, you competing with Magnus Ver Magnusson. What was it like? I mean, I know Magnus pretty well, but he had some funny stories. And I mean, I know the athletes weren't as, say, professional as the really new, like, modern guys. You guys had some fun back then, as well as competing hard.
Well, I mean, when I got involved, the first kind of characters I met were Jamie Reeves, John Paul Sigmarsson, O.D. Wilson, one of the biggest men I've ever met in my life, Grizzly Adams, all them kind of guys, Magnus, you had Riku Kiri, Ilka Kinnunen, and all the kind of the Finnish guys, Wayne Price, Gareth Bard, and host, Manfred Herbal, Ted Van den Para, 7'2", smoking his big roll-ups on the side, It was a fantastic time to come into the sport, because it was professional and people did really well at it. But when you're outdoors in Scotland and it starts raining and you start doing truck pulls and everything, it breeds a different kind of, and you've got to laugh. You've got to be able to laugh at that. Where winning wasn't the only thing. I think it was about surviving those days, because sometimes the weather was so bad, you know what I mean? But that was the challenge of it, it's brilliant, And then when I did the 3 Hino World Mighty Men in South Africa in 93, 4 and 5, I think it was. Fantastic, competitions in the pure sunshine there in South Africa, Finland and the stadiums doing all what they did up there. Just amazing times, look back and think, Strongman was excellent. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I didn't want it to stop. Do
you still keep in touch with any of those guys that you competed against?
It's funny. I mean, I've been in touch with Forbes Cowan. Spoke to Wayne Price the other day. I was chatting to Wayne Price. I think we wish each other a happy birthday on social media.
Yeah. That's the great thing with social media now.
But I think, but you think about it, Laurence, it was 27 years ago. You're talking. For some people in Strongman now weren't even born when we were doing it.
Lots of them.
And if I saw time move on, I had a huge career in the prison service, but I went up through the ranks and that sort of stuff. I coached rugby. My son got involved in rugby. I coached rugby for 7 years. Took a youth team right through to kind of coach level. So you get involved in other stuff. And I think men are the worst enemies for keeping in touch with people. Women can do it easy. but a man, just a little bit. But I keep in touch with quite a few, but not only, they're all over the world, and it's difficult then as well. But social media has certainly broken down a few of those barriers, and
social media has made that side of things so much better. I mean, I think there's good things to social media and there's bad things to social media, but focusing on the positives, just like yourself, we've been able to travel all over the world doing this sport. You meet lots of incredible people, and then you can keep in touch with them. You can follow what they're doing, and like you say, just even like wishing them happy birthday. It's nice to sometimes see what those guys you were competing with, and guys that you sort of had real battles with at that time. It's just sport at the end of the day, isn't it? You've got to move on. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the things going on in Strongman right now. And for me, it's sad. I think these guys are incredible athletes. And I'd rather, I love seeing the battles between all the athletes. I've loved competing against everyone. But at the end of the day, it's just sport. You've got to move on. And, we're not at war here. It's lifting stuff up and putting it back down.
Well, the problem is now is that level of exposure. And I have been watching the kind of debate that's been going on social media between certain athletes and that kind of stuff, and that's very sad. But also, in some ways, sometimes negative advertising is good for sport, because it keeps people. Let's have a look at but also, professionalism, money brings other problems, because then it becomes money driven as well, and that can create a lot of problems. In my day, we didn't earn a lot, so there wasn't any of that animosity. And if I saw Magnus tomorrow, we would cuddle each other, because of that kind of thing. If I saw Wayne Pressure, we'd cuddle each other, and it's a shame, because money and profession does change a little bit, changes the ethos a little bit, and I hope that it can solve this, because, it's not good. It's sport, And as I do, Laurence, and any other kind of people who do weightlifting or strongman, wherever, one injury away from stopping. You're one injury away. And I've seen some horrendous injuries over the years. I've had horrendous injuries. And it's that close. So you cannot rely on something. You've got to kind of say, okay, I've had a go. Some of the injuries have been horrendous. And they can be, Lifting the kind of weights that strongmen are lifting now, and what we did in those, it's not natural. I don't think the human race was meant to lift those things. Pull that rock over there, pull that truck. We were just designed to chase after food, weren't we? Reproduce. If life was only so easy now. Yeah. But no, I think it's sad, because you're right. We're all in the same game. We're one injury away from finishing career, but it's just that, and I think it's sad. But I hope they can sort it out, and move on. But I think in general, it's getting good publicity.
The sport in general is growing rapidly right now. It's lovely to see and to be a part of. And I know you've come to a couple of the Giants live shows, and you've been involved with Glenn Ross's shows, and I hope they all keep kind of moving forward. And I hope for the youngsters coming through, the sport does keep growing. But hopefully they can still focus on enjoying it, because this sport is hard. Trust me, trust Gary. We know the pain that it can cause. So you have to enjoy it first and foremost.
Oh yeah, if anybody doubts that, come along and count my scars. No, and I think people coming in, they've got to go do it. You've got to go into sport to enjoy it before you do anything. If you think I'm going to be the best, you're never going to get there. You've got to enjoy it first and get out what you can. And if you've got the kind of ability to go forward and get one, then of course pursue that dream. Because it is a hell of a dream. And if you've got those natural abilities, go for it. I would never stop anybody going.
100%. Gary, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Like I said, I've always been a huge fan, and we've met a couple of times over the years, as you do with Strongman. But it's been nice to just sit down and chat with you. Thank you for coming on. If any of the fans sort of want to find you, are you on social media at all, or not?
Hello, I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
You can't miss it. It's me lifting the tyres in Scotland.
Excellent. You still got that picture up there. Brilliant. So we will tag Gary down below. Guys, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We've got lots more interviews coming up. Thank you again for the support, and we'll be back with more strength action soon.